Hello and welcome to On the Rocks, a BRTFC Supporters Club podcast where we discuss all things BRTFC. It's a special one today. I'm joined by Goldie, Adam Goldring, and I'm joined by Supporters Club Chairman Ian Guppy. Hello guys, how are you all?
Good evening, afternoon, whichever one you want to call it. How are everybody? All good?
Yeah, all good here. We're in quarantine, of course, at the moment. So, how is life without the football?
For myself, obviously, I'm not saying I'm quite lucky, but obviously, where being a key worker, I'm still having to go to work 5 or 6 days a week, so I'm still being active in that way. But yeah, at the moment, it still feels like it's a full season, doesn't it? Not missing too much football, but obviously, give it another week or two, then obviously they can start kicking in. Not being able to watch anything on TV or even live, so to speak.
Yeah, same really.
Yeah, it's all, I'm sure. Yeah, same for me really, but it's just frustrating because we were, in my view, I thought we were still in with the running of maybe getting fifth position in the playoffs. Other people disagree with me, but I thought we still had an outside chance of making it. We had quite a few games still left. The points were still there. Cray Wanderers maybe would have been the one that maybe had been a bit of a banana skin for us, but other than that, I thought we had a good chance still.
I thought so. I know. We're doing well. Just back to what you were saying about how's life in quarantine. I've been off for 7 days. I'm all right, not a problem. With work and that, with the fire service, they just can't risk it. And I had a bit of a one funny night, so they asked me to stay off for 7 days, which is cool and I respect it. But I'm back tomorrow. Life without football, yeah, it is boring. And I think it's just you kind of miss the normality. Like even just sitting and putting Sky Sports News on. Yeah, you just put it on and you just see what's going on in the world of football, and actually you kind of realise that there's nothing happening in the whole world apart from Belarus, and it's insane. There's nothing to watch, and just popping down the football club for 2 minutes is something now that you're kind of running a risk. So it's very bizarre, and as Gold says, in about another fortnight, it's just going to get painful. But there's much more pressing things in the world, isn't there? So it's just getting in, and it's good to kind of keep this going, really.
Yeah, as much as it's frustrating, I think everybody can understand, with the current circumstances, why, the leagues have been stopped for the time being or suspended or null and void or whatever you call it. What are you both of your views on the suspension of the season and the null and void reason? I think Bognor have decided not to scrap the actual goals and the results, but obviously the league has pretty much been stopped. Meaning all those in promotion places basically don't go up, and those in relegation spots, I guess, don't go down. So, what are your views on that?
Go on, guys, you go.
Well, you go.
No, you go on, you go. Go on.
Alright, for myself, who's going?
Go on, you go. Go on.
Okay, for myself, it's I'm not disappointed with the league for doing it, because I genuinely would love to see the season finish out. I'd love to see how Worthing got on, if Craig Wanderers going to call them, would Fergus didn't even do it, would Hornchurch out of it, so to speak. And to be fair, would we still make playoffs? As you just said, we still were in with half the shout, wouldn't we? And I think after watching us at Horsham, we could put in, 20% of what we saw there. There's no reason why we genuinely couldn't be fighting for that last place in the playoffs, in my opinion. Some of the best football I've seen in a long while. Even going back to the last season, I'd say, and it just felt like everything clicked in the Horsham game. Even though we gave, they had long range chances, didn't they, in the first half. Full second half, Amadou made the saves, but we were definitely on top where we could have easily gone 3-0 up, 4-0 up. They went down the other end, had a chance, and the team was slowly gelling again, wasn't it? Christian Campbell at left back, where you think, how many times did their right winger get past him? Not an awful lot, was it? Ashton Lee then playing in that attacking left role, where you think, do you know what, we're actually putting people in their right positions, and I just thought we were a joy to watch. Ultimately, I'm glad the season's over, but as Gups mentioned just now, there's more pressing matters for the world at the moment, isn't there? So, null and void, is it? It's not top of the league. I think so, isn't it? But if you're top, you're going to be a little bit breathed, aren't you, so to speak?
Yeah, I think we performed really well. I thought we confidently got the result, and great goal by Tommy Lee, great goal to finish off the rebound off the bar from Harvey White. I thought we looked set for the remainder of the season COVID-19, got in the way, and that's seen us obviously end the season early, which is a bit of a shame. Guppy, how did you get involved with the supporters club committee? You've been doing that for years now. So how long's it been?
I'm sure you've probably seen with cricket and everything. I like organising. I like doing stuff. I can't sit still. I can't relax. Even when I was feeling unwell the other day and didn't know what was what, I still couldn't stop myself moving around. So I'm always busy. I think Gold's joked behind the goal with me a few months back that I'm the only guy that could get 26 hours out of a 24-hour day. And that's it really. And it is. And even this week, I've been in quarantine. I've been in isolation, but renovating the house with the other half moving in, which is cool. But yeah, I got involved the season after Peterborough. So what's that? 96, 97. I think that's the first time I kind of got involved with it. And I ran the away travel for 3 or 4 years. And I think the season after that, we ran a coach to every away game. And it's kind of only this year and the year before that's kind of come back full circle with the work that Dave does, which is fantastic. And it's just gone from there, really. People always say to me, why did you get involved in it? And if I'm speaking frankly and honestly now, is the reason why is obviously I love the club and I'm a fan and I can't see myself going away from that. But having the 2 little girls, just by having the shop there, it's just a bit of a base as well. And there'd be nothing worse than going down in horrible weather or anything like that. At least there's a little base where the girls can go, and it's nice that everyone knows them. And I always say that with the 2 girls, there's 500 family that look out for them on a match day. And for me, it's just anything I can do to help. It's great, and I love it, absolutely love it, and I wouldn't want to change anything really.
What is happening with the end of season do? Is that happening, or is it going to go ahead at some point? Or?
We haven't discussed it as a committee. We are going to try and get a committee meeting via video call in the next few weeks. It was due on the 15th of May, and at the moment, obviously, that's been postponed because we don't know what's happening. We see today that clubs who have had because the null and void, although it's confirmed, it hasn't been set in stone, and I think the FA still need to do that. So I know there were like 100 clubs today that have written asking it to be reconsidered. So that's all probably still up in the air. And actually, I kind of agree with them to an extent, because I quite like what Littlehampton Town are doing at the moment, because I saw on Twitter today that they're lobbying Premier League clubs who have got people who have the vote. And they're kind of saying, I think one of them is Barber, who's at Brighton. And if he's voting on the non-league null and void, they're kind of saying if you're voting on the end of non-league football, which actually, in my opinion, is potentially right, because this could go on for a while. If you're going to vote non-league null and void, then as a Premier League club, are you going to do the same for your club? And it's a valid question. It is a very valid question. So, yeah, at the moment, the end of season do is postponed, which is a real shame, because actually, in my eyes, it still happened. The physical act of this season happened. There is still a top scorer. There is still a player of the season. So even if we do something at the first game, if it's next year to kind of recognise that and give players their trophies, because it still physically happened.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, I'm sure the players and the management are just as frustrated as the fans at the moment, given, the season ending as abruptly as it has. Just a shame, because I thought we were just starting to pick up some momentum, and, it would have been great to finish off the season. So a question for both you guys at the moment. So your greatest memories, your fondest memories of being a fan of Bognor Football Club?
Grimsby definitely for me is one. How close we got, and actually, you see that the Hales Owen and Concord Rangers kind of draw that's live at the moment in the semi-final. I'm not saying anything different, but I think we just got a bum draw with Grimsby and still ran them close. I think Halifax, we'd have had a chance, and I think Nantwich, we'd have both thought, wow, we've got a real chance as well. Imagine Nantwich or Bognor at Wembley. So Grimsby, for one, is huge. And going back even further, I remember a 4-0 win against Braintree at home. Braintree were top of the league. We were chasing them, and we demolished them, and they were unbelievable that day. And I remember being behind the goal with, probably Gold was there with me, and we kept ringing up the Braintree clubhouse every time we scored, asking if they knew the score. And every single time they're like, no, we don't know what the score is. And then we tell them, and all the crowd behind the goal would cheer. And there's loads of silly memories. Again, Goldie was involved in one. We went to Aylesbury away. My car had broken down, and I got a hire car, and it was like a shoebox. And we drove all the way to Aylesbury to see us. Did we lose 4-0?
Yeah, we got battered, didn't we?
Yeah,
they had that ex-league pad, didn't they?
Byron Bubb.
Or that worldly thing. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Byron Bubb, and just those those are the ones to me that stand out even more. You know,
behind the goal, wouldn't they, I think?
going to Grimsby away is amazing. Those sort of memories are great, but it's the silly ones. You know, when Golds and his auntie Nikki went to Bedford and we were the only three behind the goal. On Climping Rock, and again we lost that, and that was the Bryco Cup, and you get more excited about those games than the big games.
Yeah. I was going to ask you both about away days as well, because obviously most of the memories comes from away trips, and I'm sure Goldie's got some stories as well that you might want to share.
Yeah, to be fair, most of them are very, very involved with the gut stuff. Obviously, when I got behind the goal as a kid, obviously we used to have a Wheatsheaf posse. Obviously, Guts was talking about there, where he used to run the coach travel for 3 or 4 years, and that's where it was basically based out of, when Guts was a Wheatsheaf.
Massively.
And they used to have good, 30 to 40 on it most weeks and stuff, and that's where obviously the songs all started, and we had the fun trips away to Leatherhead in the league, where everyone dressed up as the Teletubbies, and I remember that day Neil Scatmore scoring an absolute worldie into the top corner. A few of us invaded the pitch, either Lara or Dixie that went on the pitch, which obviously was Dion Sampson at the time. Neil Scatmore jumping on top of him. Halfway through the game, all you hear is this is spectator announcement, because the Teletubby, please get off the pylon. And obviously there was one of them coming halfway up it and stuff. And if you think, could you get away with that nowadays at Narwood Lane or wherever? You probably couldn't. But back in the late 90s, it was a bit more fun. I think you could get away with a little bit more. So Leatherhead was always a fun one. I think Tiverton in the FA Cup when we won 4-1. We had no right to go there to win. I think they were unbeaten at home for 13 to 14 months, I think people were saying. And it was literally just like watching Brazil. Literally everything we done, got the ball down, played well. I think it was an 8-mile hat-trick and Mark Rice with a goal, which then obviously puts us into the first round proper at home to Ashford, which, as a 10, 11-year-old kid, it's something that sticks in your mind. And that's obviously where myself and Guts first met each other and become proper football friends. Which again, it becomes a friendship for a lifetime, and that's the thing, I think, with football, isn't it? I think, touching on with, Guts' girls, where, it does become a family, as cringy as that sounds, it generally does, and, you look forward to that Saturday afternoon or Tuesday where you can meet up and just talk football, watch football, shout at football, sing at football, still that. Any other things that I remember, like Grimsby was phenomenal, whichever way you look at that, it could have been so much more, but, end of the day, you can never take that away. I mean, it's such a shame that squad, kind of split up in the summer, didn't it? I think the worst thing that ever happened to us that year was getting relegated. Obviously, taking Pride the following season, Rutherford. I think if you genuinely could have kept that squad, Grant Smith went on and so Robson, but that weren't far away from being, a league above squad, was it, in my eyes? Just trying to think of some more, but I'm sure it'll come to me at some point. I may throw it in there at the end of the interview.
No, that's fine. Similar to that question, looking back at this season, this past season, what were your favourite memory of this past season, the season that obviously never was now?
I think for me, that standing right behind Joe Cook's screamer, that was an absolute rip snorter. Being involved as an official in the Portsmouth pre-season friendly, and actually being involved as the referee of the trial game, it was awesome to kind of see things in the background, and it was actually a real shame that only a couple of those players came through, because I remember, I don't even think he got through, if that makes sense, but there was a Polish lad that played who had just literally moved over, and he just looked unbelievable, and Joby Griggs, Junior Kamara, the Williamson brothers and all that sort of thing. There were some really, really good players on show, and I think it was just nice to see that actually, after years and years of being told that local talent isn't good enough, at least the local talent came and gave it a crack. I was gutted. I still feel gutted it hasn't worked out for Dan Simmons. I still feel he's got a lot to offer. And to see him kind of go away from that trial day and be told by Jack, get yourself fit and come back, it kind of showed to his credit how he persevered and cracked on. And it is just a shame, because I still feel the likes of Dan, Jimmy Wild, all of those sort of local players, they've still got so much to offer. And for some reason, it just hasn't clicked at Bognor.
Same question for Goldie.
Yeah, so for myself, mine's off the pitch. So mine is the emergence of the TLB, the Rocks Brigade. Obviously, a bunch of young lads. I think there's 5 to 6 of them at the start. Just wanting to get the atmosphere going at Narwood Lane. And let's be honest, it has sounded decent ever since they got going this season. Obviously, the Brolly end was a massive help. With obviously Guts being involved with that, with Dave Robinson, Simon Cook, and that. It's such a shame to see that flow down when it did, because I think Narwood Lane was becoming a very, very fun place to be. Even when we weren't winning, they were still singing. Even looking down behind season's end, and you're looking and you're going, that person don't normally sing, or that person don't normally get involved in. It is a joy sometimes. When you lead a Green Army, all of a sudden, you're hearing everybody give it back, and the players must respond to it. You see the fan to interaction now has definitely moved on from what it was, 16 to 18 months ago. From that Conference South year that we had, unfortunately, it did become a little bit, between everybody. But hopefully it's slowly getting there. You can tell that Robbie, is loving the club now. Yeah, I don't know. It just felt really good having those involved this year. Hopefully there'll still be more friends and people start talking that Narwood Lane's the place to be next season. Yeah,
talking of Robbie Blake, I think he's been great with the fans, and do we all think that he's going to stay for next year? He's saying on his Twitter that he's got no plans to go anywhere else, but I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think with Robbie, the only issue we've got is at some stage. I think he's settled here family-wise, having a few chats with him and that, which is amazing. He's still got very close links to Portsmouth, but someone of that Premier League credential, credibility, at some stage, someone higher up will come sniffing, and you can't blame him. I know he was linked with Bradford not long ago, and if you looked at the bookies, he was second or third favourite. So I think with Robbie, at some stage, someone will come sniffing, and I think the reason why is he seems absolutely fantastic managing people, tactically, and all things like that. Sometimes that's not needed. If someone works for you and runs through brick walls for you, then everything else is irrelevant. You look how some people talk about, people like Bobby Robson, Brian Clough. I know they were tactically amazing and all that sort of thing. But actually, the reason why people love being with them, and Jack Charlton has been mentioned as well, is because they were just fantastic people. And it seems Robbie is that. And all the players talk about him like that. So I'd worry someone would come sniffing. But no, on Twitter, I think day before yesterday, you mentioned that he's here and he's got no plans. And that's great, because like I say, it was very refreshing last year and this year to see what was what, and the way we played and the way we were finishing this season. The potential is massive.
Yeah. I think he certainly is. He's on his first steps of his managerial or coaching career. But I think if he stays at Bognor and if we get to playoffs or somewhere next year, that'll prove himself. Prove Absolutely. That he can go further. Goldie, with the songs, is there any way fans can find out what the words are, the lyrics are on the songs? I never know the words.
Yeah, just get behind the goal and join them with the boys when you're not on the radio station.
Yeah, I've joined Ken and Peter at the Horsham game, but I hardly know any of the songs, so I'm not a big singer, but I really enjoy it when I go behind the goal. But I didn't know if there was a glossary somewhere or a library somewhere you can find them all.
I think back in the day there used to be something, but with like the newer breed of football fan, isn't it? A lot of it's like an ultra based, isn't it? Now it's very much, isn't it? Followed by whatever at the end. But obviously, I'm sure I can sort out a WhatsApp for you and send over the songs so that you can lead it in away games when the boys aren't there. But like I say, a lot of these songs generally stem from the early days of the late 90s where the Wheatsheaf Bossy, a lot of them are still sung today. So trying to get the youngsters to sing it is sometimes a bit hard, because obviously they're not old enough to actually go to Sheets or drink a beer or, get with a woman. But I'm sure we can sort something out where get it out there to people, I'm sure.
No, it's a good idea. I think I think that on the message board not too long ago they were talking about what the words were, and I was following that and seeing what people were saying, but I don't think it ever was sort of put together or anything like that. But I think obviously the main one, On You Rocks, all those sort of things are usually ones.
If people ever come up with something, they're more than welcome to send it through, and we'll try and get it going behind the goal, see if it works and stuff. So, it's never like close to, because you stand on the Wednesday stand or you stand in the main stand. Anybody thinks up a good one. It's even like the Amadou Tangale song, that just stemmed from unsure who made the flag with Ivory Coast and South Coast. Me and Guts literally on the old WhatsApp group messaged each other, and I think we made it up within about 4 minutes. So, instantly there's a song. So, it's great to hear the fans kind of goal getting behind it. Even Amadou loves it, didn't he? So.
Amadou's certainly one of those passionate players. I'm glad we've signed him I think we've signed him till the end of next season. So at least that's something to look forward to for next year. We've got the goalkeeper in place, which in previous seasons we haven't had that, have we? I like his passion as well at the end of the game. I don't know what he's saying with his fist pumps at the end, but he certainly gets with the fans and cheers for the fans. And when he's certainly got a clean sheet, he's certainly one of the best goalkeepers I've seen. We've had some great goalkeepers in recent seasons, but I think his passion and his drive is certainly one of the key highlights of the season. Gupster, your column in the Bognor Observer, is that still going? And
yeah.
I always wondered how you send yours in. I do my Bognor Post one by phone a lot these days, but is it done by email for you or?
I think there's one coming out. There's one coming out Thursday actually. I sent it to Steve last week, and it was just talking about life, Corona and all that sort of stuff in football. All I do is I just write it on a Word document and then send it via Twitter DM. And he just gets it from there really. So yeah, he was going to run it last week, but I think he's going to do it this week as a bit, because I did one for the cricket club as well. So he's going to do a bit this week. I think it's going to be out, and obviously it's going to have the good news about the stand as well. So you'll have a bit of reality with life and the good news about what's going on at the club.
What are our thoughts about the new ground improvements? Obviously, it was released this week that there's some new plans to improve the main stand, obviously fix the stand, the season's end, Brolly end stand, and also do some floodlight changes. What are our thoughts on that?
I think it's brilliant, and it's very much needed, because crikey, years and years and years ago, a gentleman called Mike Phillips, who's still around, he tried to get something resurrected with it. Goldsy even did a sponsored slim to raise money and all that sort of stuff, and it's always been a rumour. It's always been a rumour, and there's always been an undertone that this is happening, but it's never come to fruition. But to see that statement this week, to me, I remember chatting to Jack about it a couple of months ago, and he was like, no, actually, this is going to happen. It might not be this year, it might be next year, but rest assured it will. And to see that statement come out, and obviously we don't know how COVID-19 and Corona is going to affect building. I guess if building is done with the isolation processes and the 2 metre distancing, then some elements can be done for next season. But we might have to wait until this all blows over, until it goes in. But it's great. It's exactly what we need. Just a bit of modernisation. The club has done so much off the field this year and the year before, mainly through the work that Dave, Simon, Carl, Josh. Of course, it's hard. You start to name people, and then I remember Dabba saying it once. If you try and thank everyone, you'll always offend someone because you haven't named them, and it's really, really hard, because all the voluntary work that's done at the club is unbelievable. And actually, if we can be starting our first game next season with a new stand, a new brolly end, a new toiletry areas, new PA system, it's just wow.
It's got to be great, isn't it? I think whenever it happens, and I know it's been in the pipeline for a long time, it's got to go down really well, and it will allow us to then, I believe, to play National League football. That's the aim, isn't it? Is to try and get to that level. Obviously, you've both been fans for I don't know how many years, probably a lot longer than me. What do you both love most about the football club?
Watching Bognor win.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I just think you're kind of born into it, aren't you? I think you're either pushed by your granddad, or you're pushed by your uncles, or whoever. And I just think it's just that nice feel-good factor when you finish work on a Saturday, or finish on a Friday, get down to Narwood Lane. Hopefully watch a good game of football. It's one thing that Jack's always tried to breed, isn't it? Is good, attractive football. Whether sometimes you agree with it at times, when we're back along the back line in the 91st minute, still trying to get an equaliser.
Mm-hmm.
It has always been decent to watch, isn't it? I think, you make, like I said, you make friends, make family, along the way. I probably talk to Guts more than I talk to half of my family, and again, I just think it's that nice feel-good factor. I don't think you can beat that feeling walking away from Marwood Lane on a Saturday with 3 points, feeling, hey, what, we're going to have a good weekend. And I think that, was it Folkestone at home? That was the last minute winner, wasn't it, when we won 4-3? And we also had one a few weeks prior to that. Was it maybe Marsden at home and we won 2-1? Just that feeling of, we're going to score it. And yeah, you can't beat it, being behind the goal, watching that goal go in, jumping around like, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that for me, literally watching Bognor win is generally what I look forward to the weekend.
That Folkestone one.
I think same question.
Yeah, that Folkestone one that Gold's talked about. That's the first time, and it was kind of like a bucket listy kind of emotional moment. The first time, like the girls have been coming there since they were born, so Isabel and Amelia have been there forever. But for some reason, I don't know why, but I was in the shop with the girls and I took Isabel out to go right by the corner when they where the programme hut is, just to watch the last couple of minutes. And she saw it all, and it's the very, very, very first time that she acknowledged what was happening, following the ball, because she's only young, and seeing Brad score that last minute winner, and to see her running around, that's what it's all about. Like I say, a Tuesday night under the lights with a win, just walking away with that feeling, because it just gets you going, doesn't it?
It's finally clicked. I remember being very young. I used to prefer playing than watching, and that was the days when that training pitch used to be a playground for all the kids to play football, basically, whilst the game was on. But yeah, as I grew older, it became more and more of a passion and more of a watching the game and benefiting from that. So now it's time for the quick fire round.
Yes.
The Rocks players round. I'm not sure how we're going to do this, Ian, but
should we go alternate?
Two players like.
Yeah, go on. You guys first, I'll go second.
Yeah, so we'll go alternate.
Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so eight. So I've got 4 each.
Cool.
Okay, so here we go. Your preferred choices at the ready. Okay, Craig Robson or Emmett Dunn?
Oh, Craig Robson, 100%.
Alfie Rutherford or Kevin Clements?
Alfie Rutherford.
All-time top scorer of 212 goals was Kevin Clements, 78-89. Connor Tighe or Jacob Walcott?
I think just because of the fact that he played a couple of games, scored a worldie on his debut, and then wasn't that good, and then got him back for the Sussex Senior Cup final, and again wasn't that good. But the fact he was Theo's cousin, Jacob Walcott.
Tommy Block or Darren Budd?
Oh, you can't put me on that one. Tommy Block. Sorry, buddy.
VJ Kogaoka or Paul Jones?
VJ, just because he's a Bognor legend, but I remember seeing Paul Jones, Golds remember this, play away at Thurrock. Remember that game? And we were like Brazil that night, won 5-0, and it's probably the best of us in a Bognor side play. And Rutherford was unplayable, not Alfie, but he was unplayable. We beat Thurrock 5-0, and it was probably the best I've ever seen Bognor play, and there was a crowd of about 4.
Harvey Reid or Lloyd Rowlett?
Lloyd Rowlett.
Yeah, I think he's one for the future, isn't he, Lloyd Rowlett? Leon Maloney. Yeah. Leon Maloney or Alex Parsons?
Oh, Alex Parsons, 100%.
He's still great, isn't he? He's doing well at Worthing still as well.
I still get the
One
odd,
last one.
I still get the odd message from Alex, and he's still very, very keen on the club and very keen on everything. Just what a gentleman Alex Parsons is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hope to see him back with us at some point. The last one then, Goldie. Snorre Nilsson or Matt Wood?
Snorre Nilsson. Wilson, I was going to say Wilson. Yeah, no, he was part of that decent squad, wasn't he, Snorre?
He did score that crucial goal, didn't he, against Dulwich, I believe, not too long ago. Not Dulwich, sorry, in the FA Trophy to get us in that game. I think it was 1-0 at the Lane.
Yeah, no, good player.
Okay, then that's the end of that round. So, your opinions basically on next season? Can we make the playoffs? given the fact if we make it, obviously we start the season as we are supposed to in August, do you think, both of you, do you think we're going to make the playoffs or go for a championship next year?
I think if we can keep the squad together, we've got a massive, massive chance. I know that Dan's obviously training elsewhere to keep his kind of professionalism, which is a shame because actually you can't deny Dan Smith's qualities. You know, he's actually more than just a goal scorer. I think he offers so much to the side. And there's a bit of Luke Nightingale about him. He does it all with seemingly not breaking a sweat. You know, and he just all of a sudden pops up with just a couple of bits of skill where he just is phenomenal. So obviously if we lost someone like Dan, it would be massive. Brad Lethbridge was just sort of coming back into form. Yeah, if we keep the same, Amadou in goal is a fantastic coup to kind of keep him for a couple of seasons. And I actually think trying to keep Joe Cook, but I think Havant will have him next season. You know, instead of him coming on loan, I think Havant will have him. But I think we've got the makings of a very good squad, and it's nice that if the season's finished now, it's nice that we've ended with a fantastic spine of people that you think you're not going anywhere. Ashton Lee, Tommy Lee, Keaton Wood, all those sort of players where you just think actually.
Yeah, I think they.
Yeah.
I'll have to agree with Guts there. To be fair, yeah, if you can keep a good core of that, even if with Christian Campbell, his situation is going to be, if you get him signed up for next year. I'd like to say that Albion already signed up. No, I think Keaton's looked very good alongside of Joe Cook. Again, depending on what happens decides to do next year, isn't it? It's kind of a shame they haven't got up because ultimately, would Joe Cook be good enough for the conference or National League? Probably not this moment in time, for the future most definitely. So, you kind of want their season to carry on and hopefully they win promotion where maybe we could get for next year. But yeah, like I say, Dan Smith, heading forward. I personally think he's got bits of Jason Pryor in him when he first turned up. A little bit, not like skin and bone, but like there's not much to him. But over time, it will develop into a big, stocky forward. That win things in the air. Can he happily track back? He can defend. But yeah, no, I don't see no reason why not. It just all depends who we keep and what goes on. So hopefully we're just a little bit more ready in the summer.
Yeah, I agree with both of you there. Thoughts on Joe Cook? He's obviously announced he's finishing with us on his Twitter feed recently. He made a real difference, I thought, to the team. Do you think he'll play at much higher level?
Yeah, absolutely. He just everything he seemed to do was just assured and steady. A bit sort of Graham Mariner-esque, going back a long time ago, just Gary Young-esque. Never really. Gary Young was one of the players that would play in a monsoon and he'd walk off with the cleanest kick going, but he'd be man of the match. Yeah, and he would. And Graham Mariner same, just a bit Rolls Royce-like, just kind of stroll through the game. You kind of actually don't realise what they're doing, but he's just picked up a man of the match award. Yeah, that kind of, yeah, Joe Cook will be a very, very good player. And it's a shame we may not see him again in the Bognor shirt.
Yeah, can't disagree at all. So, yeah.
And also these two Ukrainian players that we were supposed to see, they obviously never got to see a competitive match this season. Do we think we'll see them next year?
Hopefully, they live in the area.
So. I reckon we should just flip a coin, flip a coin, heads or tails. Tails in that.
Yeah,
they must be gutted though, mustn't they?
Yeah, they live in the area, so they've been down to a few games to watch. So yeah, it is a shame for them. But yeah, it'd be good to see if they could. Yeah, I think I heard from Jack that the midfield one was running around. I think you've seen it in the news lately, the story about when Kolo Touré trialled for Arsenal and he ended up injuring most of the first team squad. And Arsene Wenger was like, you need to stop, but I really want to sign you. Apparently that's what he was like in training, just literally crunching every single player. But I'm sure that kind of player, Jack would love that. So it's a shame. It'd be good if we can see them. And you never know, you could have two superstars there.
Yeah, I think if they turn up to the trials, obviously they'll have trials pre-season and see how they get on and see if they make it. A lot of players have proven themselves, like we say, the two Lees this season I think have been superb. Tommy Lee, particularly, Ashton Lee, obviously has been a bit marred by injuries this season. But they're two players I hope will be there next year. I think you'll see the usual spine of the team still there. Harvey White hopefully will stay. I'm not sure who else is going to stay, who's going to go, but that's always the question, isn't it? In the off season, we're already into off season now. Obviously, with the COVID-19 taking over. When do we think the football will start again? A lot of people were saying 3 to 4 months. Other people were saying 6 months. How long do we reckon before we see a football game again?
I think it's tough because football, although it is really, really important for getting people back on side, it kind of is not the priority. School shut, people off work. As soon as you start, I see in China and some of the places in Hubei and Wuhan, they've started to open things like cinemas, but then I saw again that they closed them again. So I think everybody's going to go back with real trepidation. And I think I messaged Golds about this the other day, actually. I think, if anything, there is the feasibility that things like non-league football could come back ahead of Premier League football in terms of the massive thing, in terms of big crowds and big stadiums. Premier League behind closed doors is probably almost going to have to happen if they're going to finish the season. But you could potentially have a crowd limit of 500 and still have some sort of social distancing, but get a game of non-league football in. So actually, I think, if anything, that first game, it could be massive. And just to be back at Nywood Lane watching a game of football kind of would say, it's over. We're back to normal.
And looking ahead to next season, and seasons to come, really, this is the last question really that I have. What do we need to do? What positions do we need to strengthen in to make a real go of it and maybe get into the National League?
I think any team, if you can strengthen in any position, isn't it, you'll always try and improve. Met nice with Christian Campbell, if we bring them up there. Did we need a new left back? I don't think so. We have Craigie there, you can have Ashton there. I think Keaton's done a job there at times this season. So I think if a player becomes available, as harsh as that sounds, it's a results business, isn't it? So if you can improve your squad to do better, or you think they will improve the squad, then so be it. And I think we're looking back at Stu Green tweeted something earlier about the FA Trophy and where he scored at Maidstone, and on that day we only had 3 subs, but the 3 subs were Alfie Rumford, I think, Alex Parsons and somebody else, so you just think that ain't a bad little bench to have. So I just think if we could get a squad of players that can play certain positions rather than them all playing in the same positions, you think potentially you've got Chad back next year, you've got Calvin back next year. For me personally, I think Harvey White's been superb this year, but I still don't think he's in a midfield 3. I still think he's better as a wing back or even a right back, because that's the way Tottenham play. They play from the full backs and then they like to get forward, a bit like Trent Alexander for Liverpool, where it basically comes from him. And I think if you've got Harvey on his game, Tottenham will be on their game. So again, it's not hard, isn't it? If players become available, you take whoever you can get, and they can use the squad. Easy there, cups. And again, if Dan Smith goes, all of a sudden you're going to need another forward, aren't you? So I think sometimes it'd be nice if there was an up-and-coming youngster who could score goals. That, you could keep around the bench, but you would still give him 30 minutes at the end of the game, or 40 minutes, so to speak. But I don't know. Who knows? Whoever becomes available. Lots of free agents now, I think. So,
I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of hidden gems out there that we tap into and maybe on trial and see where we can go from there. I don't know what your thoughts are, Ian, on next season.
I think there's a bit of an open book, really. We haven't seen anything of people like Trezor Shima, like you say, the 2 Ukrainians. All of a sudden, with players like that, you just never know. And there must be other players. I've always felt that as a club, we've never quite done right with the Polish or Eastern European community. And the fact that these Ukrainians are kind of sitting on our doorstep kind of shows that. I don't know what the answer is, because I remember years and years ago us leafleting Eastern European fans, in translating. I think you messaged me recently, Liam, or Ken, about trying to change the Bogner fixtures poster so that there's one in Polish or there's one in Eastern European. And it all makes sense, but you also kind of worry, that actually these players must be there. Yeah, there must be players that have come over and that are just living in Bognor or the surrounding areas that must be decent. You know, I always go back to a lad when me and Golds played in the same football team, a goalie called Magic, and he was way too good for Sunday level, and he ended up playing county level. And you kind of think there must be other people like that. You know, he's now one of the coaches, one of the Bognor youth coaches, and his kind of Bognor Polonia, which is what his team was called, is now affiliated to the Martlets and the Bognor youth team that Carol and Mike run really well. So there's people out there, and actually in 10 or 15 years' time, what Magic is doing now by having this team affiliated but using his connections is only going to be good for the club.
No, I totally agree with those views, guys. So thanks a lot for joining me today for On the Rocks, and we hope to do more episodes, obviously, as the weeks go by, just try to fill out this quarantine time. But I really appreciate both of you guys chatting with me today. I'm well open for you both to come on again in future episodes for On the Rocks.